Oh well, it is what it is. Hello everyone, this is Black Raven. This is the Betterment Broadcast. I'm your host. This is the 99th show. Oh yeah. So what we're gonna do for you today is let's jump between our PDF. Look at that magic, fantastic. Make it go full screen if I best can. Think we can. Cool, cool, cool. Tell a friend to we're live today. Will be a super duper, super duper show. Hopefully you guys will jump in and participate. But let's go on. So after much research, I've unfortunately concluded that currently black people are collectively inadequate. Very important message there. We will use that message to try to uplift the collective. That's the goal. All right, so we're going to send out the link and we're going to try to be constructive as possible. But to help us, we're going to use the 4D values. So what are the 4D values for those who've never seen it before? I'll show you right now. Discipline, dedication, dignity, and discernment. You see? If we can use these four things when we try to find solutions, we will be better. If we don't, we might struggle. We might struggle. That's right. If we can also try not to use derogatory language or derogative language, let's try to be descriptive as possible and no derogatory, if possible. If possible. What is the best? What is Black Betterment? Black people helping black people on black issues for betterment. That's what Black Betterment is. So if you didn't know, now you know. Right? So what does that mean? It means that Black Betterment actually is a lifestyle. That's right. We promote the lifestyle of Black Betterment on this broadcast. Black people helping black people on black issues whenever it's constructively possible. That sounds like crazy stuff, right? Maybe, but if we did that, we will see progress. That's right. That's right. Don't forget that. You were warned and told. All right. So we're going to be showing some videos. Definitely, majority, if not all these videos, do not belong to us. So, Copyright Act 1976 allows us to make for fair use purposes. So, criticism, comment, and user bullying, scholarship, and research. That's what we're doing. That's right. Copyright Act. There you go. Cool. If you have time, I'm going to put this in the thing as well. Please do follow the Black Betterment Building thingamajig. The Instagram. Sorry. Can I pin it? If I give me 70 seconds to see if I can. If I was to look in here, hold on. Just gonna see because I don't want to log into my other account just to pin things. So let's. How do I view? You know what? I should be opening that one, but let me open that. Almost there, family. Let's see if I can do that. Is it no? This is giving me no warning of anything being live, which is never good. So let me type in Black Betterment. Hopefully that'll come up. This should all be stored automatically, but clearly not. Hopefully I'm the first that comes up when I type that. I should really slow down. There we go, it's live. Is that yep. Is there a Black Elite? If so, there we go. Let's click on there. We're gonna hear a bit of delay, so forgive me. Forgive me, family. I'm just testing something. Make sure you get the best possible stuff. But while I'm doing that, feel free to check out Instagram and follow us because it should be on the screen now. Come on. There we go. I'm using a stone today. Okay, let's see if I can make that a pin. No, I can't. So I have to log into my thing. All right, there you go. Well, that was a waste of time, wasn't it? Whatever. Cool. All right, so Black Betterment Building. Follow that if you can. Now, let's move on. So we are at today's fantastic, super mega, ultra good topic, theme for you guys today. And that is there a Black Elite? If so, how can they benefit the black masses? This comes from basically when we look. I think if we observe in the States at the moment, or just generally throughout, they've always had a black middle class, an upper middle class, and upper class. I would say upper class. Maybe there's some numbers of upper middle class. So I'm not too sure. Right? They differ between say the European or white group, but they're definitely there. And what happened is a certain lifestyle was built, and then now you get things like boule and all these kind of words, which I guess has negative connotations because of how certain people groups might behave and perceive behavior and stuff. And I guess the question I'm asking here is if there is a Black Elite. We're in the UK at the moment, but this is a worldwide concept anyway we're talking about. So every nation with black people, we're talking to you. If there is a Black Elite in your country, neighborhood, town, whatever, how do we want them to operate? If we had to form our own Black Elite, what do they do? What is the value of them? What can they do that's beneficial? And we're going to unpack. We're going to go around the circle just to come back to the beginning, blah, blah, blah. So let us actually go through certain videos just to see some histories of Big up Empress Kushti, very important contributor, one of the most important, if not the most important. Big herself up. So we're going to see if we can find some of these videos that I have. Forgiveness, they're all over the shop. Let's go for this one now, see what it's saying. Say what we're saying, see what we're saying.
I am from the middle class because that's what I was born and raised, and that's how I live. Socioeconomically, statistically, we are middle class. But we're black middle class, and we will always have that word black in front of us until the day I die.
In a society haunted by race, being both middle class and black poses a special set of dilemmas. Over the last generation, more and more blacks have moved into the ranks of the middle class, highlighting class differences that lurk just beneath the surface of African American life.
Class is a very uncomfortable topic for all Americans, and I think it's especially uncomfortable for Black Americans. I think it's offensive to some people to think that there is a class structure in Black America. I think that's probably rooted in the fact that minorities who have been oppressed in America do not ever want to be perceived as oppressive.
I think poor African Americans believe that we are like white people and that we are uppity.
I can't tell you how many niggas I've been called because I just wanted something better. That's it.
You think you better, you think you cute.
You talk funny, or you think that you're white, or you act white.
It was not a compliment for somebody to say you're bourgeois at all, because it just put you in a different class.
I didn't know Bougie growing up. I didn't hear Bougie until I was in D.C. I'm sure Bougie was born in D.C. And I'm walking down the street and I hear somebody say, "Oh, are you?" Because I wouldn't speak. It was some guys, with no teeth, drinking wine on the corner. And they're like, "Yo, hey, sweetie, yo, baby," and I don't say anything back. And I'm like, "Oh, forget her. She bougie." What the heck is that?
Is the word bougie quite a lot?
I'm looking for guys who've gone to good colleges. Smart, and went to good colleges, because I don't want.
Can't stand a dumb man.
Yeah, can't stand a dumb man, and a guy who's like, who's going to a good school. That's pretty much it. Because
Well, I mean,
Ivy League is the way to go.
in my
That's what I
experience,
would
I've
say.
just found. I don't think I've ever really dated anybody that didn't go to Ivy League.
Okay,
maybe one or two guys, and maybe they were just the exceptions.
From the
but,
privileged children of suburbia to hard-working homeowners in big cities, at least half of all African Americans can be labeled middle class. But despite all this educational and economic diversity, such class distinctions are often overlooked by a country that equates being black with being poor.
I don't know, like there was this one guy who said, was talking about something, and he said epitome instead of like epitome. And it's just like, that can't happen, because it's very embarrassing.
It's somehow more comfortable dealing with extremes. The jail to Yale stories. They had rats for dinner. The mother had 40 children by different men. Like that kind of crazy, and he ended up graduating head of his class at Yale. Oh, goodness, great. I think that's just where a lot of people are comfortable. I remember, when I was working at People, and a guy who, considers himself a card-carrying liberal who, wrote books about what a liberal he was, turned to me and said, "Oh, I know, you're Cosby Show black." And this is when the Cosby Show was on. And I know he wasn't trying to insult me. He thought he was giving me a compliment because he thought that meant he was really seeing me.
White people want to give you this backhanded compliment. They say things to you like, "Oh, you're so articulate." Or, "Oh, you really write well." One of my friends is a Stanford graduate, law school graduate, policy advocate, doing very well.
For those joining, we're looking at, in America, we're looking at the middle class, upper middle class, and I guess upper class, people who might be deemed the elite. Greetings to IC3. And yeah, we're looking at that and we're asking, is there a value to have an elite? If there is elite, how should we treat them? Is there a need for the elite? And if there is one, how should they operate? And who is the elite? Or who should be the elite? And this is something where the UK, where we're currently based, where this broadcast is broadcast from, we don't really have that kind of social structure, but maybe we need one. That's what we're going to be discussing. Let's see.
You know, when she mentioned that one of her co-workers said, "Oh, you write so well." Well, the assumption is, that she shouldn't be able to write well, but why shouldn't she?
I mean, I've always heard it before that, you're not like the other black folks. I mean, I heard that when I first started working, but you're not like the rest of them, and that probably offended me more than anything else. I mean,
These days, many upwardly mobile blacks have moved to the suburbs, far away from the poor and the working class.
This is my A. Julian book. Now open it. When I grow up, I want to be a doctor. I want to be able to help other people like doctors because they're good to people.
Yet, mindful of how race still rules in America, many upper middle class blacks have flocked to a small group of elite African American social organizations. One of the most popular is Jack and Jill.
I'm gonna draw the swirl.
For 65 years, it served as a social
I've listened to this one, Jack and Jill. We're going to unpack some of this and see if there's a value in such behaviors and stuff. Have a listen.
Incubator for the children of high-achieving parents.
Come on. No, you're cool, baby. You look good. You look good. You look good.
One exhibit shows, a lot of upper female body parts. They're just going to walk right by that one picture.
Jack and Jill was a place where a lot of us were expected to find our future spouses. There's no question about it. And I remember whenever the Jack and Jill Up the Hill yearbook would come out, my mom would come home from the meeting and we would go through it and see who we knew in different cities because it told what everybody was doing, particularly the graduating Jack and Jill students who are going off to like which colleges. And so we'd look to see, well, who's going off to our school? And when my brother went off to Tufts, we went to see, okay, who's going off and who will he know and who will he date?
So what we're going to do is we want to find out where these organizations set up, what is the constructive things they do, and what are the things that need to be reviewed.
And all that kind of stuff. And the thing about it is there's no question about it, that was going to be at least a part of the world from which we were going to find our future spouse.
You have to be invited to join. And if you don't meet the general group's criteria, you don't get invited.
I understand the purpose of...
But what seems comfortable to one group can seem exclusive to others, and conflicting viewpoints about clubs like Jack and Jill mirror the dilemma that the black middle class finds itself in.
Yeah, if we want to talk about class, Jack and Jill was a
Here
part.
we fought to be invited into the country clubs. Then we start our own club, and still we have to be invited. That's where the rage comes from.
Was not there an air of superiority with that? That came along with it, yes. And that's the part I didn't like.
If you don't have an MD after your name, guess what? Your kid is not going to get in there. And that's the way it is today.
Or you're a single parent.
Or you're a single parent. Right. I talked to someone who was in Jack and Jill. I said, send me an application. Did I get one?
No.
So, and it's teaching them the wrong values. So it's teaching the children to be like the oppressor. If you're like them, then maybe they'll accept you. But it's never going to happen.
Debutante Morgan Gabrielle Brooks.
Unlike their white counterparts, middle-class African Americans have to balance their desire to move up with the need for racial solidarity in a country where skin color is still what is noticed the most.
A member of the National Honor Society, team secretary for Jack and Jill. Her motto is, aspire to be the best for myself.
We're just normal people trying to do the same thing you're trying to do wherever you are, Hoboken or wherever, Warsaw. They're all trying for the same thing, to get up by your bootstrap, but you had to have boots first.
We should be encouraging our community to strive. Every group in America has come to America with the goal of becoming middle class. So why should we suddenly be the only group that identifies becoming middle class as this nasty word of calling bouginess? I think it's almost a reverse brainwash that somehow attaining success means losing your roots.
All right, family.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Millennial Magic, debutantes 2000.
I'm going to keep on rambling on, so I'll throw a link out. If you wish to join to say anything, feel free to jump in as we play the videos. What we're going to do, what is that? What is this? Hold on. Let me play the end of this song. Never heard of Jack and Jill before? Yes, Jack and Jill in the States. For those who don't know, that, you know what? Let me, because I would say something, but there's a way they describe themselves that I thought was interesting. So let me just find it on the other. Jack, and there was a way they described themselves that was interesting. Jack and Jill, black. Let's see. As in, there we go. Let's see. How do they describe themselves? Yeah, very good word. This one. Jack and Jill of America is a leadership organization. Very good word there. Let's copy and paste that one. That's quite good. A leadership organization. And basically, you know, the African Americans, they go there, they send their children there, and I guess they try to I guess steer their children into doing certain high maintenance stuff and that good stuff, whatever. But obviously, so we are gonna. I don't know if the videos I've got will actually tackle some of the challenges, but historically, because Jack and Jill started in 1938, very long. That's before Superman was invented, so quite long ago, and Batman. It's because it started then. Unfortunately, it was very colorist. I think the brown paper bag and that kind of stuff was where it started. That those kind of behaviors started there. And also, if you study, not that it's necessarily connected, but it isn't like the talented 10th concept from Du Bois, where he's talking about if we get 10% of black people who are very talented to do all the work, then it will trickle down, that kind of stuff. Blah blah blah. I guess Jack and Jill might incorporate that kind of concept to an extent somewhere. Where are we? Okay, where's my thing? So where's this one here? Because I've got 3 videos. 1, 2, 3. So let's see what this one. Oh, I've got 4. What's this one? Hold on. Oh, this is the old school one, isn't it? All right, so we'll listen to 1 minute of this. This is just from the 60s, just to show you, the upper class how they were in the 60s. Let's have a listen. It's like long, so I'll just
program is from NET, the National Educational Television Network.
Very nice. Very nice.
I'd like to live in a tree-lined street. I'd like to have a summer home on the lake. I'd like to have a yacht and belong to a North Shore Yacht Club. I like to wear suits from Brooks Brothers. All Americans, and I am an American, we think this way. There's no other way to think. I can't think African. I can't think Irish. I can't think Norwegian. I have to think in the society in which I live, which is a white society. So their values are imposed on me, and I think this kind of way. I don't think of myself as being a Negro. Never, until recently, have I really been concerned that I am a Negro. I thought all the while that I was an American.
Interesting commentary on this in Life magazine several years ago when they had the sit-ins on Route 40 to try to stamp out discrimination. And they had asked a lady there who ran just a hash joint almost, why she discriminated against all of these black people when some of them were diplomats from African nations. And her comment was simply that they all looked like just plain run-of-the-mill niggas to her.
Very important quote there from the 60s. That was good. That's we should maybe take some of these quotes and put it as some kind of like showreel. Let me see if I can log this thing. Hold on. Okay.
This is Robert Jones, age 38, native-born American. He holds down an important job, owns a yacht that sleeps 8, and vacations each summer on fashionable Martha's Vineyard. He, his wife, Marlene, and their 2 children live on a tree-lined suburban street just across the Hudson River from New York City.
That works.
Bobby Jones.
All right, we'll stop that now. Cool. Just a brother and his yacht, his wife, and quite a lot of stuff. These got names so I can send for you to look yourself. Just gonna listen to one more, and then we're gonna move to
you as well as articles.
So this is I wonder if this is actually copyrighted. Oh no, that would be bad. Should have made it black and white. Let's have this.
Graduate of Harvard Business School, and Harvard Law School.
All right.
They have a son and live in Westchester County, New York. It's my pleasure and Apple Books' pleasure to present Loris Onyx Graham.
All right, so this brother who's talking there, he is a member of Jack and Jill. Grew up in there. He's going to give his. He wrote a book about it as well.
Thank you very much. I want to thank all of you for coming out here and welcoming me to Detroit. And this is not going to be a very formal presentation. Since we have an intimate group here, I'm going to have a dialogue with you and talk about my new book, Our Kind of People, Inside America's Black Upper Class. I know some of you may have been familiar with the book that was just mentioned, my book, Member of the Club, where I talked about my experience going undercover as a busboy at a country club in Greenwich, Connecticut, where I was exposing bias in a country club. And for me, it was not an issue of getting to play golf or tennis with affluent whites. It was an issue of this being a business issue where a lot of important business networking goes on in these country clubs. And it was my intent on trying to really, in a sense, embarrass people who knew that what they were doing was wrong, and that was discriminating against not just African Americans, but also women and Latinos. So, but the new book that I'm talking about, Our Kind of People, looks at the history of America's black upper class, and it starts from the 1870s when we had our very first black U.S. senators and first black members of the House of Representatives, and comes up to the present. And during that time, I'm looking at the first black millionaires in the country. And those people include Madam C.J. Walker, who was the first woman millionaire, who just happened to be a black woman, and she made her first million in the 1890s. I also talk about Alonzo Herndon from Atlanta, and you'll notice that a picture of his mansion, which was built at the turn of the century, appears on the cover of the book as well. He's the founder of Atlanta Life Insurance Company. Now, in the book, and it's become somewhat controversial for those people who've was on the cover of this month's Atlanta magazine and the Chicago Tribune Sunday magazine, and in this month's Our Detroit magazine, as well as a Book of the Month Club selection. A lot of people are talking about how I define class. What do I mean when I say upper class? Am I talking about wealth? Am I talking about influence? Am I talking about education? I'm really talking about the gamut, all of those things, because a lot of the issues that come into play when we talk about class in our society include such things as financial wealth. They include background as far as how many generations of a family have been rooted in a particular community. I grew up in a lot of the organizations that I guess would be embraced by the black upper class as a member of Jack and Jill, and my mom's in the Lynx, and I'm a member of the Boulé, and my parents got a home in Oak Bluffs, Martha's Vineyard many years ago, so I've grown up knowing many of the people that are part of this history. But what I was trying to accomplish in writing this book was broadening the definition of what we mean when we talk about black people in America. I don't know if you remember a show, Good Times, from the 70s, or Sanford and Son. And I remember growing up in the suburbs outside New York City, where a lot of
those joining now, where the show is about the black middle upper class, black upper class, black middle class in America, and the elite and behaviors and stuff like that. And we don't really have this in England, but we're pondering: is there a value there? Is there any good ideas we can take? Any ideas we can not take? What is the purpose of such things? Blah blah blah. And we're just listening to some of these videos now, and I'm going to segue into something else about why I did this. But let's have a listen.
The white kids who went to school with me and lived in my neighborhood would ask me every Thursday morning, I think it was that Wednesday night, Good Times came on, JJ and Esther Roll, and these kids would ask me in the morning, what did JJ mean last night when he said to his parents, blah, 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 and they would mention some slang term because they assumed that because I was black, I would have to, of course, know any black slang that was used in that Chicago housing project. And that was the narrow definition of what it meant to be black for them. The same thing goes with Sanford and Son. That was one of the other few representations of blacks on television. Fred Sanford, played by Red Fox, was a junk dealer. So they just assumed, well, of course, you must know other junk dealers. And what's interesting is that it wasn't until the 80s when The Cosby Show came on that I started to see people that I knew, black.
You should do more UK-related content. We don't have this not in UK. Well, I'm going to segue into something after that is UK, so you're going to see how we parallel and the reasons why.
People that I knew that were like me in The Cosby Show, where you saw professional parents and intact families and kids that went to school and didn't split their verbs. And a lot of folks said, well, this isn't a realistic portrayal of black people. And not just whites, but black folks too. We were saying that's not realistic portrayal of black people, when in fact, those were the only black people that I knew.
We'll listen to 2 more minutes of this, bro, and then we'll jump to what the next thing.
Were families who were doctors and
unless you insist we carry on.
Lawyers and bankers and people whose kids were bright and ambitious. So I think that we have a very narrow definition in our country that where whites and the mainstream media have said, well, what it means to be authentically black, and particularly if you are successful and are authentically black, you are an athlete or an entertainer. And a lot of people ask me, well, you know, you spent 6 years working on this book. Are there going to be a lot of famous athletes and entertainers in it? And I basically ended up saying after finishing it, I said there are virtually no athletes or entertainers because that is not the population I'm talking about. I am talking about, as I said, people like Madam Walker, who while she made in their photos of an incredible wedding that she gave to her granddaughter in 1923 for $60,000. A $60,000 wedding in 1923 is, I mean, it's astronomical in today's dollars. It certainly was incredible in 1923 dollars. But what's also important about her story is that she was a woman of great wealth who had founded a company that that manufactured hair care products and started a chain of beauty schools. But she also, with this great wealth, was also contributing to the NAACP. She gave thousands and thousands of dollars at the turn of the century to the NAACP.
Very important there about contributing money to black organizations.
To aid them in their anti-lynching campaign.
Very important.
So it was not just an issue of black people gaining great wealth and throwing debutante cotillions, because that's also a very big important part of this group. The debutante cotillions, the
Right, we understood all that, but yeah, it's probably good to listen to. Unless you guys please play more, I won't. But I'm sure he'll break down. Now, keep in mind the link should be wedged at the top of the forum area if you were to join in. What I'm going to do now, and this is it's going to be a slight different, but I want to show you something. So basically, the question we're asking is, if there is a black elite, black upper class, what do you want them to do? Is there any value in having a black upper class or this word elite? Because you've heard me throw this word elite before. And what I say is, if you're going to have an elite, why don't we try to create the parameters of what elite is? And let me know if you agree or disagree. Maybe the elite is black betterers, black people who are dedicated to help black people and are constructive, no matter their financial income. And then we perceive them to be the elite. And that whenever you want to think of the elite behavior in black society, it's those who are dedicated to improving the collective betterment of black people, regardless of wealth stature. Who knows? It might just be something that people become wealthy by doing it because it's such a prized thing to do. Who knows, right? We could try to do it that way, but that's where I'm going. Now, I am trying to change the perceptions of certain things. In a lot of these, you know, there are divisions between class and education and that kind of stuff. And I think that's something we want to definitely break down. I don't think there's a value You're going to have people who talk a certain way because they're from a certain part of society, and people talk because they're from a part of society. But what links us all is a need for betterment. I think both of these individuals saying, and on the old video, that even though they had African queens and kings and rich people here, they go to certain society and they were still seen as the same old, blah, blah, blah. We know this. So these are things to keep in the back of your mind. Now, what I'm going to do now is there's a show called The Black Opinion. I think Sarah Garvey does it. And I watched it the other day. And there was a guy who identified as biracial. I believe he's black and Indian. And it was very interesting. But I just want to hear him speak because he's very informed. But it was interesting to him speak. So I'm going to listen to him and I'm going to segue it to Black Elite and that kind of stuff, right? So have a listen. Let's go.
People in relationships, people not. All right, so let's get started. Let's just ask the question. Is anyone here in an interracial relationship?
Yeah.
Now remember, we're keeping this from an economic standpoint, but let's keep listening.
I'm there.
Why?
What do you mean, why am I?
Why?
Why am I in interracial?
Yeah, why?
I've edited this, bro, and I've also edited all the swearing.
Why? Why not something else? Does it matter? Does it not matter?
It depends. Because I've actually thought about this. I've read the book Black Economics by...
Very important. So this brother has read the book Black Economics by Jawanza
Kafufu. And he talks about the reason why the black community is disintegrated is because...
So once again, there are books out there that identifies the challenges in black society, and Black Club is definitely one of them, how it pertains and connects to economics. And this brother's read it.
Or socio-economically, one of the reasons why we're the bottom of the barrel in pretty much every country, including...
So the brother's aware that we're at the bottom of the barrel in every country for some reason?
Even in Africa.
Even in Africa.
Is that we interracially date outside.
Very strong statement there, very strong statement there.
So when you look at other communities, if you look at the Indian community, such as the Gujarati community, they date within, they don't... It's not predicated on anything else in terms of they don't talk about it, they just do.
Very important. This is what we talk. We're gonna bring up about how that happens and how that can happen for us.
And the idea about that is collectively, the identity stays as one. When you have kids and they're interracial kids, they're growing up in fragmented communities that aren't necessarily theirs because you can't leverage off both. And that's...
Keep in mind, this brother himself has one black parent and one Asian parent, I believe.
Me coming from, I'm mixed race myself. You end up being in between a rock and a hard place between the two. So to put into live examples, when you look at, say, Gujaratis, wherever they go, they're always top of the economic food chain. When you look at 74% of Indians within the UK own their houses, while Africans is 20% and Caribbeans is 40%. Not drawing any causal link, but when you look at it, the black community interracially dates more than any other community out there.
So when I saw this was very important to me because it was like poetry. It was like poetry. And I would like to talk to this brother because of what it reminds me of a certain... I'll give you an analogy afterwards, but let's hit it.
But then it comes down to what is the most important thing to you. So to give another example, Martin Luther King, the most important thing to him was the furtherment of the black people. So as a byproduct of that, he died broke, and so did Malcolm X.
So he's showing you that many black brothers and sisters who try to help the black community die broke and alone, maybe something. Very important.
See, the betterment of my people is something that I put above a lot of things, but I don't put that over my self-gratitude and love.
Very important. He doesn't put the collective betterment of black people above his self-gratitude and love. Very honest, brother. I'm glad he said that.
And even when I look at, say, my financial views, that's why it's become more conservative as I've grown older, because I want to elevate my people, but not at the detriment of myself. And when you look at, say, I've gone on a tangent, but look at like Tory views, it's about what matters for you. And part of that is capitalism. So the same way when I put love, I put that over other people, because the reality is, do these men give the same about me? I'm most loyal to myself.
That's how I edit out the swearing. Very good editing.
Than I am to anyone else.
Right, so I have a question.
Go ahead.
Very interesting point here, and we'll bring up another time. This is called A Black Opinion. I speak to Sarah guy. We used to go to Speaker's Corner, and I assume this is his show. Is connected to the show somehow. I haven't done my due diligence research. I don't know if this is her segment or this is her show, and they pop by, but I'm sure of it. But she's a white lady and she has quite a prominent talk in these kind of talks they have. And because we don't focus on her, I'm going to edit out. But I think she seems to be a woman who talks she's very pro black man, and she seems to highlight a lot of issues, stereotypes about black women. And also, she says she likes black men and black white men, but apparently she's only ever dated black men. So I don't know if that's why they've gone on the show, or if she's very close friends with the black men on the show. Not too sure, but one to watch, one to case study this dynamic. And then on the chair, you'll see 3 black women. They're very interesting. We're not going to focus on them. This kind of stuff. Yes, she does a lot of manosphere stuff. Yeah. So it's interesting the direction that these people are going in. But right now we're going to focus on the identified black who calls himself biracial brother, and hear what he's saying about economics and black love. And maybe another time we'll edit someone else, the other people, maybe the European lady and da.
What % of black people do you think date interracially?
So one thing I know is that most time when they try to give facts, this individual always tries to give a different opinion that makes that opinion not as valid or not as urgent. Okay, this is her show. He's supporting. Oh, there you go. So then that's probably what it is then. So he's on offer. Thanks for the clarity there, Kushi. So this is her show. So is this show not called The Black Opinion? So that must be, maybe I've seen her guest on that show and then he gets on this show. But it's very interesting to hear. So let's carry on.
I don't know the
white woman appears to have taken over the show. The white swimmer star. Okay, there you go.
But one thing I do know, in the UK, it's more than any other race combined. But I can't tell.
So the brother's saying that in the UK, especially in the Afro-Caribbean community, obviously, black men tend to marry outside the community at a tremendous rate. He mentioned he identifies as black. He's identified as black. And he mentioned he's read books about economics and how this happens. Let's carry on listening.
I can't tell you a flat line percentage.
No, I was just curious because when you were talking, you said it was more.
Yeah,
but
it's
it's still 85%.
So I think what the lady's doing is she's saying that in the American, like I think 85% of black men are with black women or married, something like this. But what they need to focus on is, regardless of how high you think that might be, in comparison to other people groups, it's the highest. So that's the best way to look at that piece of data. But that's her talking point. Keep in mind, she's an individual who loves black men. When I say loves, I mean we're correct. She wants to be intimate with black men.
In the UK.
I don't. Let me see.
I don't think
this might be the US.
Yeah, this is definitely not the UK. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can check.
Check to let me know.
You sounded when Daly was talking, you were like, you sound like you had something to say.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised. I'm surprised because to read black economics and then be with a big outside the race is a very strange.
I'm showing you there is that even though people know about these things, we have practiced individualism. I'm not saying it's bad or good, but I'm saying it is practiced very highly amongst black collective. And this, is something that we should observe and,
thing to actually be able to take from it, something from it, and then
no, but that's
still do it.
I don't know. I never said that's what I took from the book. I'm saying that this is what the book that talks about. But I've even said and I explained I put my love and I put my self-actualization over the black struggle.
So it's
very important, and this is a very common thing. Many black men and women, but this is focus on men. They the collective needs and the hard grafting to get black people out of that forever bottom challenge. Many people they become individualists, and even though they know about it, and also the whole branding of why they would end up with a non-black woman as well. And because who's this brother? Sankofa, right? Welcome, Sister Sankofa. Welcome. Okay, we'll just play, and if when your mic works, just press it on. Feel free to jump in if you want me to pause.
Greetings. Sorry.
There you go. No, there you go. So I don't know how much you've seen, Sister, but what this show is about. Basically, we're talking about the black elite. Let me read out. Is there a black elite? If so, how can they benefit the black masses? We looked at 2 or 3 videos about in the States about the upper class, the upper middle class, and the upper class, and the so-called elite, and what they do for the community, if anything, and how they separate from the community, and blah blah blah. And I think we're saying, if we were to form a black elite, what would be the need, and how would we want that black elite to be if there was such a thing, if we formed it? What we do is we're looking at this gentleman here who's identifying, well-educated gentleman. He's identifying many of the challenges that black people go through, and he's saying that he's aware of the importance of economics and black love and that kind of stuff. But he puts himself above the struggle and above the needs of black people, and he's focused on himself and his wants. So we're just analyzing that, and we're going to segue into the black elite and this kind of stuff. Who is the white girl? I'm not too sure her name, shame on me, but she does a lot of stuff with Sarah Garvey, on their shows, the neutral shows. Welcome, Brother Caleb. Welcome.
Big up, Brother Raven. Big up, Sister Sankofa. Big up to you, sis. Big up to the topic. Deep, intriguing topic as always, Brother Raven. Very deep, brother.
Thank you, family. What I'm going to do, I'm going to press play. If you guys want to pause, just say pause, and then I'll let you do your monologue of anything that's been said. So let's go.
I'm loyal to myself before I'm loyal to my people. I'm still loyal to my people, but all because I date outside my race. I could do more for my race than someone that dates with inside their race. Because there's a bag of black conservatives who they'll date within their race, but in terms of supporting the welfare state, they'll dodge tax and won't give a fuck about philanthropy. So where are you going with it? Oh, because does that automatically qualify you? It's just like, for example, following a religion. Because you follow a religion, does that automatically qualify you as a good person, or because you follow a religion?
No.
When there's people who are unholy doing good acts all the time.
No, you're missing me slightly.
Yeah, so go ahead.
You spoke on the Gujaratis about how, wherever they go, then number one, at least within minorities, and actually a lot of them own their homes, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
To then go from that, knowing that, it's not really about themselves, it's about their people. It's an unspoken thing. To then speak on the fact that your reason is you.
No, I didn't say my reason. I said I've thought about that, and I've then explained that I put myself over that reason. Okay. So that is my reasoning. I put myself over that.
Now, it wasn't clear, because this is an individual. I understand he has a black parent, I assume Caribbean or maybe African, I'm not too sure. And he has an Asian parent. I'm not too sure if that Asian parent was Gujarati, because that would explain a lot, maybe. I don't know. And what I've worked out is he isn't married to a European white woman. I don't think. I assume it's Asian because it's not black. But then I haven't asked, but this is me doing my Colombo, or the black equivalent of a Colombo.
That's interesting. Anyone else in an interracial relationship? Do you think it matters in 2022 who you're dating? Does it matter the race of person that you're dating?
Yes.
Yeah, it does lead to problems. Because I've dated black as well. And even though I'm a mixed race person, so I'm just as black as I am Asian, but the reality is society sees me as black. It matters because you're going to have cultural likenesses. And when you marry someone, you marry into their family. So if you're looking at, say, I don't know, a more secular culture like the Arab culture, which is closely aligned with Islam, if you're, I don't know, say, a Christian African, it's less likely that your cultures are going to align. I know you have your opinions on Islam in itself, so that within marrying up with the black culture, you can see how there'll be different likenesses that wouldn't necessarily go. But it all depends how individualistic and collectivist you see yourself. Are you marrying a family, or are you just marrying her and just living in that bubble of your love for them?
So to the black men, have you dated both white men and black women? White men, sorry. White women and black women.
I've never dated a white woman, no.
Yeah, I haven't dated a white woman.
Okay, do you think that it's easier to date a black woman than it is someone that's non-black?
Non-black is almost like that word of BAME. Why we're not using
Asian, white.
I feel like we're only.
I'd say when you're talking like Asian Arabs, or sorry to cut you off,
Yeah.
or East, or even Southern or East Asians, it's more.
Welcome, Empress Christie. Same rules. If you want me to pause anything, I'll pause and you can speak. Welcome.
More not to do with them, because they're ethnic minorities in the UK, they're dealing with their own. It's more the families that you're going to deal with.
Right.
So they're governed by certain cultures or certain religions where it makes it less likely. So it's not more them, because they understand what it's like to be marginalized and be a minority group. Even though we're a different struggle, it's enough to draw likenesses. But Asian families, and this is me saying as an Asian man, well, half Asian man, a lot of Asian families are racist towards blacks because of
Very important point there.
the colonial ideas put upon them.
Right.
So that does seep through.
This individual has given much good insight, for a very wonderful insight. insight that can really educate black people on how to behave or how not to behave.
So you have to deal with that. Not everyone is forward thinking.
Because Kevin Samuels.
Okay.
Do you guys think, like, when it comes to interracial, like, white men are desired by black women now? Because I've seen like more black women with white men now.
One thing I would say from like I grew up between an ethnically diverse area with my dad, with my mum, and then a non-ethnically diverse area with my dad. And it, in certain pockets of Essex, like when I went to visit my dad, I'm seeing that there was a generation of black men just hating on black women that they actually became so revolted that they went to the other side because they're just like, well.
So what the brother was talking about is he saw black men mistreating black women verbally, and he's saying that those black women then found compliments in the European white community.
You lot are just gonna call us like Drogbas or say that we look like gorillas.
Mm.
These lot are actually showing us love. So it's almost like in certain pockets, the black man has pushed the black woman away when the black woman has actually been loyal to a point, and then eventually gets to the point of like, well, we're gonna date someone.
Did you see that guy the other day that went viral for that and called the black woman Drogba?
Yeah, that's what I said. The comment we did a TikTok duet on it, and that his viewpoint as a mixed race man is the view of many of people in like certain pockets of Essex of that time,
right?
Because that's what's pushed. What was the social norms in their areas is like blonde, blue eyes, brunette, busty tits, fake lips. And ironically now it's even getting closer to black features. Everything is black features apart from actually being black.
Do you find that men want to actually wife those girls? Because from what I've seen, the girls that have like the Botox lips and like that look suit with the fake tits, like they'll screw them for a night, but a mother of their kids wife them doesn't.
But that's where I think the modern woman gets it lost. When she goes out on a night out, the man's giving all the attention to them kind of women because he wants to chop them for a night. You're in the club to chop, you're not in the club to find a future wife.
Yeah.
And then her head gets fucked up because she's all Miss Natural.
Miss that sorry.
Oh, men aren't into me. But just in this setting, in this time, I know the man then when we go out, if they're going out Ibiza, they're not looking for the Bible going out natural. They're looking for this skimpiest G-string and they're trying to bust the cheeks open as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So it's just like you need to look at the settings you're in and then apply logic to that.
That's interesting, just to touch on that. So you think, and I'm sorry, that's why I've said that, men go to strip clubs because they want to look at women that look like that, but they don't want to necessarily wife women like that. And I think, like you just said, I think women of this generation, because men have shown that type of woman so much attention, they're kind of getting it twisted and they think, oh, I need to look like that to get attention now. And it's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's just what we do when we feel a little bit, I don't know, whatever.
I know men at body count of triple figures and they're like, you know what, I wifed this girl, she's a revert, she's into Islam, she don't have social media, she don't go out, I'm like the only guy she's ever slept with and that's who they end up with, you know what I'm saying? But they've gone and done whatever they've done,
Why do you guys think when they're talking about interracial relationships, it's always like black and white? Like you never hear people talk about Asian and white or...
I do notice that she always does try to get off the black and white dynamic.
or like Asian and black, like it's always black and white.
It's the most divisive.
Why?
Because of the history between blacks and whites being oppressed. It's the most divisive, all the semantic words we have behind it. It's almost like that's the reason why. Even when you look at white and black culture, probably has more things that are analogous than, say, black and Arab. Like a lot of, if you're black and non-Muslim, you're probably going to have less likelihood with an Arab Muslim than you are with, say, the average white person.
Well, the Arabs were like real,
they were worse.
No, they're like they castrated them.
So something I know is this European lady, what she does as well, she will highlight the mistreatments from non-white groups towards black groups, and that will then be the focus.
Man.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind she desires black.
So they couldn't breed the women.
Yeah. So like why do we don't really hear about that though? So why is one more divisive than the other?
It's like if you look at America ruled the world, so I think Americans at that time, even though they're not the natives, but Americans were seen as white.
Compose it.
Why?
For me.
That's probably why we talk.
Oh yeah, pause. There you go.
How long left of this?
I would say I would say less than about a minute and 30 seconds. It looks like if I'm working at.
All right. Yeah, go on then. Let it go then.
Okay, you can talk now, but I'll play.
Talk about it now.
I think they just mashed up the whole information chain on that one because you don't learn that in school. I had to look online for that stuff.
No, that. Oh God, no! I read.
A 1/10 is left.
Thomas
one.
Sowell has a book on it, and it's oh gosh,
Yeah.
when they talked about the Arab slave trade.
Yes,
It's worse than I would say it's worse than European.
God,
one.
it's the worst. Oh my God, I was scarred after like reading the account. Oh my gosh.
Well, I wonder if she was scarred when she read the European one, but let's go.
It's like when they had the slaves have to walk across the desert, and it was like over 50% of them died in the walk, and then the
just like the boat
guys that made it would get castrated. Like they were known for being like gruesome all across the world.
And that's the thing. It's like when you were talking earlier on about culture. I think people within the West generally have a.
Something we have to know as well. I won't skip some of it, but it's and I've noticed going to certain panels like the comfortableness of European women around black men. But we'll tackle that later.
Similar culture that they can try and gravitate towards, like a general culture, if that makes sense. And then what happens is when another culture comes in, it's worse because it's like I would say I'm more likely to marry a white woman than I am an Arab.
I'd agree with you.
Do you know what I'm saying? I'm more likely to marry a white woman than it is someone from Pakistan, and it's because there's a similar culture there. Like as I said, when you go into that culture, no, you don't. There's nothing of like. There's no similarities. Do you know what I mean?
If anything, you're probably, in a lot of their cultures, maybe their first generation has changed, but when you're looking at from over there, they have a caste system against their own.
Right.
So you got to remember, as a black, you are the bottom of the bottom.
Yeah.
This guy drops a lot of good points, even though he and it was the irony of that he drops all these amazing points, but yet he is not practicing black.
If they're putting other Asians who are of darker skin, because obviously looking at the history of when you say look at India, if you're darker skinned, you was a worker. If you're lighter skinned, you was in the house. So when you're looking at bringing the black people into, even when you look at Gandhi, before he did his whole change and did what he did for India, he was an avid racist. Like when he was studying in South Africa, he said, the most barbaric human is a darker skinned man, then it's Indians, and then it's whites, and then it's only switched it around. And that's Gandhi, who is like the
most peaceful man ever to live.
Yeah, but he was a nonce, but that's another conversation.
Oh, wow. For
another.
All right, there. That's in it. So, family, Sango, you said you wanted to say something. Maybe not. Okay, well, when you're ready, you can jump. There you go. There you go.
Oh, is it finished now? Sorry, I just come.
This video I edited just to feature the brother there, so it's just his views of this particular video. So go ahead.
Oh, okay, because I wanted to jump on a couple people in this video.
No, go ahead. No, you can. No, you can. You can if you like I said, if it's connected, you can from things you heard or the way it was framed. Go ahead.
However, I was saying I reflected, and maybe that's not the best direction to go. However, it's just a reflection of, you know, what's it? We live in an information age, so it's like we have a lot of information, but we have none at the same time. We're very confused. Kel always says it very succinctly in terms of the lack of our political education, and you know, it's just reflective in the conversation. It's everything you said in regards to that white woman is absolutely correct. And what's crazy, why I'm saying that is that there's seemingly intelligent people in the room, and have allowed her to sit there and compare and her even just, I'm not saying the Arab enslavement wasn't what it was, you know, but just look at her example. It's like, wow. So she can sit in front of you and say that, and that's fine. And then for us to say, I can see myself more in alignment with a European woman over an Asian woman, because there's less
somewhere where we, in a sense, we buy the same food, you know, but there is less of a connection with someone on that side of the world than there is in the European world. If that's not insanity,
well,
I don't know what is. But it's just that lack of overstanding of self.
Yes.
Even when they're speaking about culture, they don't overstand culture. And that lack of culture within ourselves as well. So it's a sad conversation to watch, but it shows the work that needs to be done. The mixed race brother, like you said, he was definitely dropping bombs on the Asian community and the real conversation there. But he's definitely confused in terms of who he is and his identity. And I'm not sure, again, he speaks to the environment that he was raised, but he doesn't understand the link of how that has shaped his confusion. So, yeah, that's my so far, because like I said, I was about to go in, but I said, Nahanda, you know better. You know better.
Boy.
Do better. So I thought, let me just wheel it back in. But yeah, it's still a sad conversation for me. So over to whoever. Pass the mic.
Pass the mic.
See, I totally agree with everything what Sister Sankofa was saying. And Brother Raven, this brings back to the dopamines, brother, that we have been speaking about, is that just because you have a lot of knowledge or educated, because we haven't dealt with our dopamines, the moment a non-African person is in your presence, unfortunately, they trigger your dopamines to cover, to show empathy towards them, which is why a lot of our African freedom fighters have made it clear that whenever they are in the same room, when you're organizing, etc., that it's a disaster waiting to happen, you know. And it's very important that we should not be around them too much, especially on political issues, because our dopamines again. And as far as the brother, I notice political analysis is that a lot of African descendants who are in interracial relationship, they will mix information beneficial to compensate for the blunder what they've done by pre-creating and being in a relationship with non-African people. And the brother's definitely done that. And I've seen that continuously with our people, that I can be pro-black and be with a non-African woman and confuse and distract black people with this information, and at the same time making them not think about that you are in an interracial relationship. If the information that you've gathered is correct, then how come you're pre-creating with a non-African woman or a non-African man?
Yeah, I think.
And then,
go ahead.
Oh,
No,
I was going to say, just following on what Kale was saying, that, and then they will always, especially in these times, they will always contradict themselves, and they will always fall short in terms of they think that they're going to be able to achieve, because you're always going to have to compromise yourself. And like Brother Kale was saying, we cannot be in spaces where we're making decisions about ourselves with them in the room. But for us to not be able to be activated, it's that kind of work that we do on ourselves. That's the other element, and how we're raising our children.
No.
So it's not something to be activated on that level in the first place. We have to rid it from ourselves in a systematic way for us to be able to respond and deal with non-Africans effectively for our own benefit.
So how this segues into the question of, is there a black elite? So if so, how can they benefit the black masses? When I was looking at the Jack and Jill, what was interesting is how there was these organizations and education places, whatever, where they all send their kids there to better themselves. And the idea was all those kids were going to marry another kid in that same Jack and Jill, a similar kind of institution, and that way it guarantees that the kids are married someone who's educated and constructive. Well, look, the Jack and Jill thing, from what I was hearing it, they were all Black American in the sense of they were pro-Black American, very Black American. Now, don't get me wrong, there was colorism from the past and some of the present, which is a joke, right? Which is the thing, which is why I talk about reformer stuff. But what I'm trying to focus on is that concept: is there a value in trying to form a Black elite where the principles are dictated beforehand? So as a community, we say, if we had a Black elite, this is what we describe it to be, i.e., everyone practices Black betterment, right? And that means Black love, Black economics, all this kind of stuff, constructive, blah, blah, blah. So that way we know that these guys in this Black elite, no matter what happened, is dedicated to fixing, working in collaboration to fix the challenges of Black people and to help get better education across the masses about Black love, Black economics, and blah, 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 blah. So I don't know, that's where this kind of conversation comes from. Because England doesn't really have they don't really have too many dedicated Black. There's dedicated Black groups, but not from a massive community level standpoint, as well as not from like upper class, upper middle class, and this kind of stuff. So that's what the question came from. But Empress, you've been. Is there anything you want to say before we start going around and stuff? I know you're here.
Yeah, hi, bless up family. What part do you want me to talk about? What
Anything you like, anything you've seen or haven't seen, or you saw briefly, or any questions you might ask. Like I said, anything you like is never wrong.
Thank you. I agree with what was got said about the show that you got seen, but I think there's just so much questions in that anyway. I did wanted to see how that was tying into the middle class. So I think he was just in the middle of explaining how that was tying into how that Sarah segment.
Yeah. So very good point, and I was starting that. So basically, what was interesting was this gentleman had a whole lot of knowledge about. I keep in mind one of his parents is obviously Asian. But he had a lot of knowledge about the past. He read books that explained the importance. First of all, why Black people are collectively inadequate, but how to solve that. And he made it very clear that I put my needs above the people's needs. And then he also talked about a confusion about having parents from different people groups. But so he placed himself within that confusion by that testimony. But what I was saying is, could we minimize that by having things like Jack and Jill or other names, whatever, but dedicated to Black betterment, dedicated to constructive works, dedicated to, pushing Black people further and further and stuff. Is there a value in those kinds of things where you dictate this is what we want, as in so you minimize children being born with that kind of confusion, and also placing no value on Black love, Black economics, Black blah 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 blah. That's how I was segueing, as in like in the Jack and Jill community, and they've been going since 1939. Apart from colorism, which is terrible, they haven't really had an issue with direction and purpose and finding a intelligent Black man, Black woman to marry, to do whatever they need to do. You know what I mean? They don't really have that kind of conversation. The only problem is there is a separation between them and the everyday African American, where as the vids were showing, they're
excluded.
Yes. So the way I see is, if you look at certain religions and stuff, what they do is they have people, no matter how rich they are, how poor they are, they come together on the principle. So your wealth isn't really a factor, right? Or how you speak, where you're from, isn't a factor, because you're together practicing these principles. So I think there is a value in that, how to get people who are from different kind of societies to think on one accord. And what was interesting is in the 1960s video we showed, it's like an hour long one, but I only played 1 minute. But in the beginning, they said, I went to a place where there's a lot of Black kings and queens and a higher society from Africa, sorry. And when they came to America, everyone still saw them as just Black, as in like, it doesn't matter what you are, you look like everyone else, right?
Yeah, it's the first time he said that he saw that he was the N word or something.
Yeah. You see, and what I'm saying is, you see all these testimonies from England, from other places where that some people know some of the challenges, they know the solutions, but yet there seems to be a force that pushed them away from practicing what could be very, because the brother was giving examples of Gujarati and how the Gujarati have their own community, and everywhere they go they dominate economically and this kind of stuff, right? I wonder if he's actually his parents are Gujarati. I wouldn't know, but and I wonder if he's married to a Gujarati woman. I don't know, right? But it's interesting that after saying that, then it's like, oh yeah, but I put myself above this kind of stuff, and that kind of shows you, I guess, why I say black people unfortunately are collecting inadequate currently, and why we need to do work to change that across the board, to change that kind of process, and what is the marketing strategy? And I'm saying the rebranding of Black Elite, but that's just me, pushing marketing ideas forward. But anyone else want to jump in, brothers and sisters?
I think
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Oh, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, my opinion on it all is that I think, firstly, I don't think that, I know it was like, I think someone mentioned that he's pro-black. I don't think he'd necessarily be classed as pro-black if he's not said that he was pro-black.
Yeah.
Just gained some form of knowledge yourself because he's read a book. And we applaud that, right? But we don't know when he read that book. He could have read that book after he got with his woman. What I applaud him on is that he had read the book intentionally, and then he self-examined himself on the premise of that book, and he was open and truthful and said, look, I put myself above the collective of black people. And then he'll do the whole, but I could help more than the average person that's with a black woman and yada yada yada, and that's just all for ego and to, I think, self-soothe. But what impressed me is the fact that he saw where he is within this thing called, do you know what I mean, Black Betterment and the black community and being pro-black. He knew exactly where he stood. He said that he put himself first. So he'd be classed as, under your realms, probably a builder, right? So I think that I would like to see all black people on a level as that intelligence, where even if you're not doing it, you are self-aware, because then you are not doing what I think is the worst thing that black people could do, is to attack, right? He's not going to sit there and attack someone doing something if you know the situation and premise of where black people are, and you know where you're standing in on that, where you're standing in that fight, right? So for me, I kind of respect that, right? If that's where, like you always say, if that's who he chooses to be with, choose to be with that person. But he's not bashing black women. He's not undermining the betterment of black people. He understands where he placed himself. So for me, it's kind of like, if you're going to do that and be in that position, I'd rather black people to be on the intelligence of that level at the least, because we know that a lot don't do that kind of research for themselves anyway. So for me, that's where I stand with him. And I'll leave the rest of the brothers out till we can probably come back on that another day. I'm definitely with Sister Sankova because there's a lot of other things on that video that needs to be discussed. But in regards to the black middle class, I feel that we, like, for example, we have like the Saturday schools, which probably do we would say that introduce principles and disciplines that are desirable within our community. I would like to see something like that with those kind of initial principles. In regards to the black middle class, it's with your question, I think it's a really good question, but it's really loaded because we're talking about finance, I feel, when we talk about middle class. So we're talking about people with money. And I feel that if you're in a high earning bracket, especially of those times in America, and you were black, you probably just needed to group. You needed to probably just group for safety and survival. So that kind of made sense then. And I think they've included a lot of history and tradition, and they've made it their own, and it's grown since then. And like you said, there's a lot of other stuff that I think is reminiscent of now, where you can still see that the people who were talking about in your video, how many generations are very light, like you said about the paper bags. So I think some of the things that have a tarnish are still very, very relevant for those who see, and I think that kind of tarnishes it for me. And I think it's interesting to see the other black people, when you show the discussion of them saying that, they don't feel accepted, or they feel that they were segregated. And I think that was on a factor of finance, right? They were saying that most of the parents who are invited in this group, you can only do by invite, which I kind of like personally, but they said that the factor was they had to have an MD, so they had to have some sort of profession, they had to be in some sort of, again, pay bracket to get in. And I think if we swap that for maybe, especially if it's for kids, if you did something like that, because I'm assuming Jack and Jill's for kids, so if you did something not just based on what your parents own, but the caliber of your academia, of your strength, I think that that would be a good precedent to set off in. That might mean that, yes, people with more money will probably be able to get in. But if you had some sort of scheme and structure where you then said that every month or every year, like you would do in any other private school, whatever school, you'd have to contribute something for a fun day or whatever, and that profits could go back into people in regards to maybe setting up Saturday schools for them to do maths and English, so they could probably get into a level 2, get accepted back in, then these are the things that could actually help. That's a bit long-winded, but I'm just saying to say there's good and bad points that I could take from all of it. But I overall, would something like this, I think, could be good for us, yes, if it's done the right way.
There you go. Welcome, Brother IC3. But I think Sister Sanko, I think you wanted a question before. Greetings.
Yeah. 2 things now. But I was gonna say, what did the brother say that makes you feel he knows the answers to the he understands what the answers are to solve the problems? And with Kushti, I was gonna say I agree with a lot of what she said. However, I don't agree with that. Yes, the brother's honest in his stance in this moment, but like I said, to defend his positioning when he is challenged, he will dash us very quickly under the bus.
That's
because it's more than a talk. You get what I mean? He's in an action or something, and he has to defend that with his life. So when he is challenged with that, we gone. But
oh yeah, that's what I said. That's why I said I wouldn't necessarily call him pro-black. Do you know what I mean?
But in terms of even in his honesty, he's not honest.
Yeah,
that you think he has, he doesn't have it. So he will. Sorry, was it? Huh?
I think he was disagreeing with you, but if you could just your point.
So I'm saying that he will. He won't stand by and allow us to do our thing if it's threatening. If it's threatening his decision making. You get what I'm saying? When he has to justify his thing or he has to defend his thing, he is under threat. So if we are challenging that, we're gone. He sacrificed us in a minute.
And I spoke about this with Brother Raven as well. His choice of partner.
I'm saying that's because of his choice of politics, which I'm saying that collectively we don't overstand in it. So that's why I'm saying that. What is he saying that Raven thinks he has the answers? Because
that's right. And I've spoken to this about Brother Raven before, that the Black Betterment builders should not be speaking on that issue, because, brother, if you notice what he's doing, he is campaigning for Black people that, guess what? I've learned the information, I've memorized it, and I'm in an interracial relationship. So if I can do it,
everyone can do it.
It's a big problem, Brother Raven, because he's marketing interracial relationship plus knowledge equals synchronization.
But I'm not even getting all of that, though. But I'm not even getting all of that. They're in the topic of interracial relationship, just giving his opinion. Like, I mean, if I don't know if I don't think he's got the answers to anything. I think he read a book. Do you know what I mean? And he started talking. I've got some knowledge. Let you know what I mean. I just read this book last week, and let me just reiterate the book. And I felt that he saw himself in that position where he turned around and said, "Look, because I know you and I know, sis, of a man, plenty of men in that situation who wouldn't turn around and say, oh, you know what, I've put myself in front of the Black people."
No, he's
where around and say I've got black babies, these are black babies, I do everything for the community, but he openly said that, and that's the only thing I said. And what I said was that's the only thing I can respect him for. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he's got the answer. I don't think he's pro-black, but I just found that in general that's quite new, because other brothers that are around would not necessarily say it. In the scope of the book that I read, right, I understand that I've taken myself out of the fold, right? I've put myself over the collective. So I don't necessarily would see other brothers, bearing in mind this brother is mixed race, right? And I wouldn't have seen many brothers saying that in regards to this, because this is based solely on relationships. This is why I said, is this bound to his relationship? Because we can only talk about him on the basis of his relationship, but this is what it's about.
But he's still marketing a product that's going to go against our best interest, Sister Kushti, which is why we were saying he shouldn't be speaking on it, because that's what he's... Father Divine did the same thing as well. And he's much older than he thought he could marry a European woman and provide for the African Americans. But he led us into socialism. You see, when we get in these political...
We've got loads of leaders that marry out. Like, do you know what I mean? That's going to be the next things that we get told.
Yeah,
so
but
that's what I'm saying. I just think that I don't think he's marketing. When I read this man's not marketing to me. Yeah.
Let me just respond 1 second.
Oh, yeah, let the sister speak now, jumping. Go ahead, Sanko.
Why not? Kushti, I wasn't saying had the answers. It was Raven I wanted to answer, because he was saying it. You didn't say it. I was just saying that.
Yeah, I know you said that. That's
what Raven. But I'm saying that with one, I'm coming back to you, Raven, or you can come back to me in a minute. 1 second. But I'm saying that and I hear you in terms of, I hear you on some level with the honesty, but we're in a different time now. And him being that blunt is not that surprising anymore, if you get what I mean. If even in some of the things that were said in this conversation was outlandish. So like that stance is in the world of manosphere, that's a standardized position of honesty now, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I'm not really in that area, so okay. For me, that's do you know what I mean. So,
but I'm saying that even if we're talking about relationships, because relationships are so big, relationships are a political statement. You hear more of him because of his politics around relationships. So it's not just his opinion this is his opinion on life and how he governs, how he moves in life. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's gonna vibrate in every level. So like I said, to defend that positioning, we're finished.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. I know that I do not believe that. Like, I wouldn't be happy if I looked to the side and this man was side by side. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But go on, Raven, now. Sorry, Christian.
Just for the people jumping, ask the question again so I can answer
it. Why do you think he has the answers, but he's just not following it? Like, what answers has he said that you feel he has?
So me personally, I don't necessarily feel. I feel he's read a book that highlights the challenges of Black people collectively and what needs to be done. That's what I feel. When it comes to him, what I think is really important about him, in my personal opinion, is he highlights everything that's wrong, many things that's wrong with Black people collectively. But what he did is he articulated all the challenges very confidently, back to back. So we could break down every single facet of him. So he was an individual who was a byproduct of an Asian and a Black person. He was aware that the Asian side was superior when it comes to not marrying other people groups, practicing group economics, and going around the world and doing that. He saw the importance of it, but he identified or was identified as Black, and then he disregarded any kind of Black collective progress, even though he read books on it and why it's important. And he's aware that Black people are hated all over the world, history of mistreatment from Arabs to Europeans and he was also aware that in the Asian community, Black people are despised. So he said all that in a short amount of like maybe 7 minutes, and yet, despite all the knowledge, knowing and expressing it, he decided to not be synchronized with Black Betterment and carry on doing individual love practice, whatever it's called, right? So I thought that was important because in one segment there's a teaching of of collective inadequacy amongst Black people as a single metaphor, in my opinion.
I think, and that's why I was saying that we're in a time where we call information age, but it sounds like there's a lot of information, but there's none, because he's not that informed of. So everything you've broken down is, you know, a synopsis, I guess, of some of his journey, but it's still not the answer of how has he articulated what he's understood as a solution. And I think a lot of the time the confusion is because even when we're talking about what Kushti was talking about in regards to the schools, and she gave a good example with Saturday school, but even that 90% of Saturday schools are grounded in African-centered curriculum and African-centered value system. So when we're talking about private schools or elites or whatever, it is a culture that they have created, that they're socializing in and they're educating in. So there is no, we can't, where the time has changed, and it is a culture war, it is a spiritual war, it is that. So if we don't develop that understanding and how we find our foundation in our value system, it becomes very difficult to piece this together, where this brother, he understands culture from an Asian perspective, because that's how he explains it, because that's how they live. And so he overstands it on another level. So when he's explaining it, that's why it sounds even how it sounds, because he lives it as well. He sees it. But there's confusion around the Black side, because what's the conversation around what is culture? What is our value system? What does that look like? That's what Pan-Africanism teaches, that everybody top every day. But Pan-Africanism is the framework to develop that understanding, so we don't feel so far apart and fragmented and all of that. So that humongous lack of education is the bigger part of the problem, if that makes sense. So he sounds like he has more than he's got in his knowledge bank, if that makes sense. But like I said, when it comes to the Asian part, it's that's a lived experience, in it, so he's on point.
And it's about applied knowledge. You can read all the books in the world, whatever, but if you don't have to apply it, it hasn't been told. You have a framework how it works with you and how you can use this to better yourself and the people. But once again, there's certain things that we brush past that we need to really analyze, especially amongst the African Black community, right? It's this: the brother said openly that he doesn't care collectively about the street. He doesn't care. He puts his needs above the collective. Now, all you need to do is would you ever see any other people group speak that way? Would you even hear a right speak that way? But what I'm saying is, it's just as he says it, there is no reaction to that. It's like that's where we're at. You see. Sometimes
it's very interesting, especially with like the people around him sitting on that chair, and there's just many things that got said that just never gets questioned, especially by that. So I just,
if you were to watch, I'll just say, if you were to watch, because obviously I've just done it from his perspective, because each woman and guest and speaker has their own say, and because it's like an hour show, I chopped this to his perspective. But if you were to hear the Black women talk about why they want to practice black love, and when they do, the European like pushes back and says like, well, why blah, 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 and the usual kind of stuff, right? Well, no one pushes back. Hold on a minute, you don't want to be a part of the African or the Black collective to find betterment. You don't want to work with others to find that. You put your desire, your one-tone desire need forward, and everything else just gets shut down. So it's but then once again, this brother never declared himself pro-Black, never declared himself of any kind of work. He just declared he's on a show that is about Black love and and he's not practicing it with them. I guess maybe that's why he's the guest. But yeah,
but I would have thought Sarah would have been in the category of probably pro-black. So
I don't know much about him because I used to speak to him a lot of Speakers Corners, but he hasn't been for a long time, so I don't know where he is now in life. But he was very black centered. But then I understand he's probably gone through a lot of transformation because of his personal challenges and stuff. I don't know.
I think that's just a problem in its own. Where I think when we look around to these YouTube leaders, these black YouTube leaders, there's a lot of this kind of fall of them, and it's all about of what they're handling in their personal life. And I just kind of think, again, it's like these people that just get these slapped titles of leaders, and then just like that, you could just be on a show where just disrespect black women and it's okay.
Well,
you know, this is what happens when we just harbor stuff on the individual and not do you know what I mean, the message or the code or however you want to phrase it.
Good point.
This is
That's
just what consistently happens, and it's just. And now we all have to fight it. Now it's all under the banner of this so-called pro-black or Pan-Africanism, and it's not good for everyone else that actually believe in it.
Right,
Do you know what I mean?
and that's why, family, from many years ago, I tried to devise, just for the everyday black person, a method of minimizing confusion, and that is the outward confession of black betterment, as in black people helping black people on black issues. Constructive and all these pro-black stuff, all your black love, black economics. So that way, if a person confesses that, if they do shows or ideas or they start wishy-washy and stuff, you say, well, hold on a minute, you're not practicing the stuff that we push you forward for. And unfortunately, what you find all over the world is you get black people who come into black spaces and they talk blackly black, and when they get to the next platform, they kind of flip up and they flip it and dip it. And what I'm saying, I'm not saying that's going on here at all. No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is by having people confess. That's why when I talk to many black speakers, I go, "What's your views on black love? What's your views on black economics?" And then you that's when they start giving their essays about love has no color, and then and economics is I like to buy fish and chips from Dale and John. When they start doing this kind of stuff, I'm like, okay. So we know that when it comes to black focused stuff, you're not included, and I'm very clear about that. I'm very clear, and that's why I say on these platforms, this is for black people helping black people on black issues. Bam.
I wanted to say one more thing on it, and then I'll let someone else talk on it myself. But I do want to say that I find it interesting on the science behind how she's aligned herself to actually get away with constantly having black men on her show and constantly dissing black men, and black men just kind of just not replying or being very like submissive to it, because she has this allyship of this whole manosphere or whatever. So she's aligned with them with constantly bashing women, but that term woman, it kind of interchangeably goes towards black women more than the generics of women, if that makes sense. So where they're having these statistics, she'll bash out the statistics, but when it comes to black women, and when she talks about black women, because she's kind of got this kind of alliance with them as a manosphere, they will shut up and let her say the crap that she says. And I think, again, these are the sciences that needs to be highlighted because they're obvious, and we should be talking up about them because it's clearly not as obvious, because this game that she's playing is very clear, and it's just...
That's right. Sophisticated.
It's not sophisticated. Do you know what I mean? It's see-through, but unfortunately, do you know what I mean? It was very see-through for me, but unfortunately, egos like to be stroked, and this is the result of it.
I've told Brother Raven before, I think a couple of shows, is that confessing black betterment, brother, right? Definitely it's work for you. However, brother, there needs to be psychological tactics in order for that to conform, because when you're around non-African people, brother, you can confess something, but if your heart is not connected to these blueprints, brother, you'll crumble. And that's what I said, bro. We need the psychological, physical tactics of left foot first, brother, assessing the information, the right foot back, in getting prepared to dissect the information, and the blueprints of constantly balancing your dopamines with Black Betterment and Pan-Africanist curriculum to tackle this, brother. It has to be an everyday thing, brother. If racism is based on psychological tactics by non-African people, then we must use our Black psychiatrists, our Black strategic political scientists to combat that, brother. This is the reality of it.
Yeah.
Agree.
Can I say? Go on then. Go on.
No, go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So, what do you think of this? See, Jack and Jill. That institution has been going for a good while, and I think most people would perceive that it's a success. And sometimes I kind of question the meaning of success, and what and how it shapes one's strategy. You see, I'm thinking that success is perceived as being able to achieve a better quality of life within the system of white supremacy. That's what I see Jack and Jill is. It's about being able to achieve certain material benefits and positions within the already established white supremacist system. The liberation of the people classified as Black, it cannot happen in a world where Black people are trying to prove their value and their worth within the current system paradigm. True Black betterment is really another world entirely. It clashes with the current world paradigm. It can't work together. Because what will happen is that stronger and stronger organizations like Jack and Jill get, it's the worse and worse will be for the Black people at the bottom. It just the weight just increases, and then you have like Brother Nifra was saying, you just get more tokenism, more racial showcasing. It just intensifies the showcasing. That's my view.
All right, there you go, brother. I see free. So it's saying that yes, organizations, industries, like he says, Jack and Jill, if they come together and they do what they're doing, they might be further pushing from the average everyday Black person. I see that, and I guess that's why the question is, if we were to form an elite, what would and I think I had the words here that I was going to copy and paste. All right, so because even though they're talking about upper middle class, the word Black elite is used, and that's the word I prefer to use, and I will be using that moving forward. I think it's a great word, and the reason it's a great word is because here's what it is: the elite is a select group that is superior in terms of ability and qualities to the rest of the group of society. So what I'm saying is this, right? I think there's a need to place importance on Black people who are dedicated to helping Black people. I just think there's a need, like that needs to be valued. I think how the brother was just easily articulate how he doesn't do anything in the sense of like he understands that there's a challenge, but he's above that. He rather live for himself, blah 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 blah. I think that's almost the equivalent of like, someone saying, oh, there was a children drowning in a van, but I don't want to get my clothes wet. you know, because they're in the sea, the Van Venom Sea, so I didn't jump in. I'm wearing Versace, you know. It's like we kind of want to when we hear that, it's not as shocking as maybe it should be, right? As in, that's quite shocking that you're very comfortable and everyone's just smiling. So I think placing a value when it says the elite group is a selective in superior terms of ability. I think abilities are important. Like we can't stress the importance to learn particular skills, but quality. There you go, bro.
Brother Raven, I do agree that the elites, the ones that are be selected, they definitely have to understand and know how to be charismatic. That's the first thing. You have to. Some people believe, sorry, that it has to be innate. No, you can learn how to be charismatic. Because if you're going to uplift the code of conduct of Black betterment, you have to be charismatic, know how to do it, know how to steer the people's emotions, know how to use a selective of great words, and etc. The second thing, Brother Raven, this is very controversial. These elite, brother, and I'm only saying this on a political, scientific analysis, they cannot be of a biracial Africans, and they cannot be married to non-African people, brother. The reason why I'm saying this for is our ancestors have broken it down. The Honorable Marcus Garvey, from the likes of Neela Fuller Jr., etc., is that if you have a personal relationship with non-African people, the dopamines will trigger, brother, and you'll think about your emotions and feelings above the collective. Now, this is very dangerous because this happened on the African continent as well as our movements. So biracial Africans or those who are interracial relationship, they cannot be the elites, brother.
Okay, let's break it down. Let's break. So how I would say that, how I would word that myself is saying like connection to non-Black people is what's being highlighted. So if you're what they describe as biracial or Black racial, as I call it, you have a non-Black parent, and that non-Black parent could condition you to behave in a way that isn't in the collective best interest. If you're a Black person who's married a non-Black person, then that Black person could actually influence you to. Funny enough, I don't know if we're going to cover the women on the actual show, but on the show we just watched at the moment. There was one of the Black sisters. She grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood when she was young, and she really loved white men. And then when she came to London, she started liking Black men. And then what she was saying that while she was dating a white man, the reason why she was completely turned off is because she started feeling lots of sorrow for the Black Lives Matter. That's something else happened as well, but let me carry on. Yeah, she started having a lot of sorrow for the Black Lives Matter murder victims and stuff. And when she was trying to talk about this to her non-Black husband or a Black boyfriend at the time, he was very dismissive and shocked and wanted the deceased and stop listening to this kind of stuff. So I guess this might connect to something what Brother Kel saying. Funny enough, just quick point, when she mentioned about the Black Lives Matter and wanted to do more to prevent Black people from being murdered, the European lady jumped in and said, but after finding out that the women who run it were actually scamming, or whatever she said, does that make you then rethink all your thoughts now? Very interesting that the agenda was to stop Black men from being murdered, and allegedly the people who ran it did some things that wasn't best, whatever it might be. And then the European lady said, but now that you realize the people who organized it are so-called frauds, does that mean now that you no longer want to practice stopping Black men from being murdered from the police, this kind of stuff, right? So just things to watch that, no one pulls up because it's normal behavior, whatever, but things that you have to do case studies on, and but I guess that could tie into what Brother Kel was trying to say, that close connection when decision making is there to non-Black people, you could be compromised. But like I said, there's a panel. Jump in what you think.
I think the example that you gave is not the same per se, even though your environment does a lot, but that was still a sister, so she didn't have any DNA blood affiliation to anyone. But when you are of a different. When you have mixed heritage, it's a different thing, isn't it? So when we're looking at Chinese, when we're looking at the Chinese doing their colonialism process, they're sending their men. Their men are having children in high numbers, especially in what they're classing as well, it's all over the continent, to be fair, at this present time. But the point is that they're sending the men, and they are aware that those will be Chinese babies. They're half African, but their fathers are from China. So they're setting a foundation. Do you understand? This is a standardized weapon in that sense. Dr. John Henrik Clarke always said that this will be the African problem. It's not the Chinese problem. It's not the European problem. It's a European problem now in a different way, but essentially for a long time and still time today, it's our issue and how we set the framework and the boundaries for things. So like Kay was saying, if we are talking about an elite group, level of training, I'm starting to understand what dopamine means now. But yeah, what level of training does that person have to go through to be able to, and like he's saying, consistently, because it is an everyday work, to be able to balance that mixed heritage. Do you get what I'm saying? We don't have, what do they always say? The proof is in the data. Let's look at the data. Because when a lot of the time we're going to pluck the names, if you get what I mean. Oh, but what about? Let's look at the data. What's the overwhelming data look like?
Very good. I add to that by saying this as well. The reason why I say Black Betterment should be the lifestyle practice by all Black people in any kind of elite, custodian, or whatever it might be, all the variants of people doing stuff for Black people, is because in the very nature of the lifestyle, it is forbidden to be operating with anyone who's non-Black, anyone who's not within the community. So regardless if a person is married, well, they shouldn't be married anyway, right? But regardless of their grandma, who they hang around with, it might be, if they want to do these things, this is what they have to uphold and maintain. And that's why I use the term Black Betterment, because there's a rule I can define, and I try to definitely minimize anyone taking it anywhere else. This is a talking tactic I talk about where, unfortunately, many of our people have been they have problematic programming, as in, the way they've been programmed. A programming concept is like this, right? It's very important to program. And what I mean by this is this, right? When you do kung fu, karate, capoeira, this kind of stuff, the sensei is teaching you certain things to go in the back of your mind. So if you're just walking down the street, mind your business, and someone jumps out and does some kind of spin kick, you don't even know that you're actually going into defense mode and disabling the individual, because you've been practicing so much that it's almost automatic. Well, that's what happens with problematic programming. So whenever you have people trying to be constructive, the problematic program makes itself. This happens obviously with Black people and non-Black people, right? As in, they've been programmed to do these things that's devastating to Black people without even really considering it. That's why we have to have present programming. Go ahead, brother.
Let me jump in quickly.
Go ahead.
If I kind of get what you're saying.
Yes.
Pan-Africanism is all African people.
Yes.
All African people, mixed race people, or whoever identifies as African and not South African like that, but all African people, all melanated people, of African heritage.
Yes.
However, if we're talking about an elite, we're talking about the premise of what you're saying. Like brother IC3 said, we're changing the whole game, innit? It's not trying to recreate our oppressor's framework and try to fit into his parrot. No, we're mashing it up.
That's right.
Create the new.
Let me
So I'm saying that. Wait. I'm saying in that, like, there cannot be no stuttering, because when we're talking about dismantling, then we are the agenda is race first.
That's right.
Somebody who is of mixed heritage has to be able to overstand what race first means. There's no allegiance to, oh, but my mum is, oh, but my dad.
That's right.
That's right.
There's no room for that.
That's right.
That's right. It's
So
war.
From a marketing standpoint, what if I told you that is there not a value in the collective of the world and black people whenever you use the term black elite to automatically think of Pan-Africans? What if that was not the actual goal? So that whenever you say Pan-Africanism, that is synonymous with the black elite, meaning these black people are, let's get the quotation right.
You're saying that they represent Pan-Africanism?
As in, no, it's synonymous. As in, like, in certain.
But that's not going to exist though, because we do have because our history is what it is, and we are where we are today. But if we're talking about an elite that is going to make decisions for the masses, for the benefit of the masses, yeah,
yes,
that elite, that foundation has to be solid, rock solid.
And what I'm saying is part of that rock solid concept is Pan-Africanism, as in like Black Betterment, as in like it's an automatic. It's like you can't get into that without this kind of acceptance that you are here representing black people, black first, black only, African first, African only, and you have these set of skills.
It's more than representing that. That's why I keep saying that if we don't understand what Pan-Africanism is, it's not just I represent this, I represent that. You're, like IC3 said, you're changing every. Kel will probably say this more succinctly than what I want to say, but you're changing every facet that you perceive as reality today, and you're reconstructing it from an African-centered perspective. Yeah. So every system we can conceive that we live in this present moment in time, we're talking about dismantling. So it's not just about education, it's our political system, it's the way we pay taxes. Anything you can think
right.
of,
You got it.
we are rewiring. So I'm saying that the 100%. Race first, that race first thinking is the only way to solidify that, because again, someone of mixed heritage, unless they have that understanding, how can they cannot conceive of that yet, because of that split, because my dad is Asian or because my mom is Irish.
Yeah.
What does race first look to that person? I don't have time for that conversation. So they can be somewhere else and do the works. Works can be done everywhere. We have plenty works to do. But in terms of setting that foundation, absolutely not. Our life depends on it, literally.
Yes.
You know what, Brother
correct.
Raven? I'll be honest with you, right? Some of us, I'm going to be very honest, some of us Pan-Africanists, some of us, our grandparents are not African, right? And the thing is with the biracial African, which I always say it's an excuse and stuff, right? You can help the nation that needs the help. It's a choice and you can do it. The thing is with the biracial Africans, right? Whether their grandparents or their parents is a non-African, is that they want to be on the winning side, right? And they choose that. And a lot of African descendants who are not biracial, they make excuses for the biracial Africans. Oh, it's because of this. No, you can choose not to help the oppressor. You can choose. As I said, there's a lot of Brother Raven where our grandparents are not Africans, and we've chosen to help our people instead of the oppressor. It's just an excuse, brother, and that's the reality.
So do we say that in certain positions, I don't want to use the term oaths or anything like that, but would an oath, kind of like you see in gangster films, but kind of like an oath where it's like, or even you see in courts where they put their hands on religious books, whatever, where it's like well, regardless of what happens, this is just for Africa or black people, whatever, right? But not for any other people groups. And regardless of who your granddad is or who he was or the way it might be, this is what it is, and you can't be seen in this space or position if you do not agree to this kind of stuff.
Pan-Africanism is liberty. It has to. It's more than an oath. It's your liberty. It's your every single day. How you
you're right.
How you live your life.
True.
Is what there's no oath. Everybody's saying things all the live long day.
Yeah.
How do you live your life? What's your how are you activating your purpose for the betterment of African people? For liberation. What's your conversation? What's your reasoning?
That's right.
Like there's so many different ways for us to be able to see what we're really about. Do you get what I'm saying? So again, it's about how we educate ourselves in what is activism, what does liberation mean, what is Pan-Africanism, what is it trying to achieve, what does it look like? Do you get what I'm saying? We're gonna have a bigger conversation, but to recite an oath.
And also, what you're saying, Brother Raven, that people have. Is there any value in the elite? Do people need to recognize and see the value in the elite, and should they appreciate? I feel like why even bother with all that effort? You just do what you're doing and just do it right and just do it with power. And then, you don't have to be saying, do you recognize me? Do you see the value in me? It's like, hey, I'm just doing what I do. If you get in my way, then you'll see, you'll see, what is there to, I don't need to display it. I just need to operate, function. That which is functioning, it doesn't need any explanation. You can just see that those people are operating. They're operating. They're building. They're functional. They don't have to tell you. They don't have to ask you if you see any value in them. They're just operating.
100%. And that's a thing as well in today's time. Like when we are looking at leadership, where because people are saying fancy things, and like Brother Kel said, we are charismatic people by nature, some of us. But some of us can be taught as well. So when we're there spinning a good line and we sound sexy, but where is the action? Where is the doing? People have to say, I am this, I am the that.
I think the system... a very, very good point. Like what, and that's why the question is, what is it that you do day to day that is in the collective best interest? Like the truth of the matter is, I do get concerned when people look at black people at Speaker's Corner for any kind of leadership, because apart from speaking really well and shouting certain catchphrases, what do they do? Like, what are they doing, or how consistent? And when you, like I said, when you look towards certain people, what do you look towards them about? You see, what topics do they talk about? Are they talking about how flat the world is? Or are they talking about how to improve the self-esteem, the skill set of black people? You understand? So it's like, it is very interesting. Very interesting. And once again, when we talk about marketing and branding, this black elite word, the question is, when someone says it, there is a thought. And I'm saying, through the actions and words of individuals and marketing, could the black elite not be the people who are practicing Pan-African Black Betterment, B1, this kind of stuff?
But then we exist already. Give thanks and praises. Thank you. I
That's it. Done.
I work in marketing, right? So I understand that in order to feel like Coca-Cola isn't the most healthiest drink or the best tasting drink, but it will sell the most. And the reason it sells the most, even though it kills the most, whatever, is because of marketing. You see? And it's like they deliberately did something. They deliberately made Santa Claus red, and they deliberately did all the other stuff they did to make you, when the sun comes out and you feel thirsty, rather than drinking water, which I recommend, you're going to drink Coke, right? So it's like...
But you see what you're saying though, Raven? You see now, this is where when Papa Garvey says, unite, organize, now will perish, yeah? Organize, because you see, our oppressor, that demon there. He's been planning long time. So when we're talking about promotion and branding, he already done rebrand consciousness and activism and all that. That's why we're in this state of confusion.
Yes.
Pan-Africanism, and again, we're in this state of confusion. So then the conversation becomes, oh, what can Pan-Africanism do? Pan-Africanism is dead. That don't work. But look how much effort though is being put in to create dissent and confusion, but also sexy up activism. So it's a little cash cow, and everyone can have slogan and all them thing there. Like the rebranding of it has already happened. But again, like IC3 said, those who just be doing the works that are just on job, on task, yeah, that elite already exists. If that's how you want to look at it, it's been existing.
Oh,
you get what I'm saying?
And that's why we're saying that moving forward, the bringing that. So like hip hop and stuff back in the days, there was a time where the whole like Back to Africa pro-black kind of movement was the leading sound. Early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. Say, everyone was had an Unk and Kofi and this kind of stuff, and it was good. And the Rastas and all that kind of stuff, everyone rapping and stuff. And then obviously it went somewhere else. And I think that's where we're talking. It's like getting back to that kind of collective oneness, but having foresight in it, as in like when someone comes up with some idea, you're promoting something, how does this actually benefit Black people? One other thing, just for talking before I forget, when we are talking to Black people who, if you announce you're a Black betterer or you're a Pan-Africanist, and then they start really trying to, what have you done? This guy's a dodgy guy. That Marcus Garvey was a fraud, all this kind of stuff, right? Which who knows where they get this talking point from, right? I would say that it's very important that you understand that we have brothers.
Design talking points. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the branding talking point.
That's the branding point. That's why
that's what I mean.
And that's what we're giving you now. Understanding that there are brothers and sisters in genetics, but not brothers and sisters in ethics, and letting them know that, look, brothers, we're going to do the work, and this is what about. But even though you're my brother and sister, we don't share the same ethics in it, right? And I do feel that declaring that separation when a person talks that way is important. You let them know that you're always a brother and sister. And if when you get back on track, we will give you direction, but we don't have the same ethics, right? And I think go ahead, sister.
Sorry, keep interrupting.
No, go ahead.
I think the main rebranding is always refocusing on Africa and the reclaiming of our culture. What Sankofa actually means in a sense. And I'm saying that if we're going to talk about any rebranding, because Africa, the conversation, like I said, the rebranding that the oppressor is doing for Pan-Africanism and Pan-Africanism standardly and activism in that sense, it's done a fantastic job, but it's still taking people off course of Africa. So if there's any rebranding to do, that is what, to me, that's what it is, to recenter ourselves on Africa and our re-education of ourselves in that way, and how we put programs to that together. That's the most my mind can do in terms of branding and all everything there.
Go ahead, Empress. I think Kush, did you want to say something? Am I wrong?
Yeah, I was going to ask this Sankofa, but a question, but
go on.
I already kind of know the answer to it, sis, because I was listening. Do you know what I mean? And it's always an asset having you and listening to your points of view. Do you know what I mean? And I agree with so much of what you're saying. I've got a few questions. So first one is, okay, so like you said, there is a Black elite and it's foots on the ground, it's doing the work. But I'm
not saying it is. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm being a bit, tongue in cheek, as they say, but I'm saying that Raven is saying that that's who would be seen as the Black elite
under those qualifications. Already here. Yeah. Okay, I hear you. So what are you saying, that you think that the qualifications need to be twerked a bit more? Like, that's what you said, that the whole thing needs to be smashed up and we need to start from it has to be a whole new thing, right? That's your kind of thing about this black elite concept.
Well, yeah, in a sense, I'm a little bit with IC3 in a sense that what if we're talking about it seriously, because I'm just kind of answering the question, so to speak, but from my perspective. But I'm saying that I'm with the sentiment of, well, what does a black elite really look like? Are we just pushing our children back in the same white supremacist system to continue to oppress us? That's what we're doing already. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's my standing on that, if that makes sense. But no, I'm not saying that, you know, Pan-Africanists are any type of elitist. Absolutely not. If that makes sense. I'm not saying that foolishness don't exist, and that's why I'm specific. I'm a nationalist Pan-Africanist. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not, because even within Pan-Africanism, you got socialist Pan-Africanism and blah, 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 blah. So I'm saying that, I'm never, that's not my conversation at all. But go on, next question.
I think as well, it's just when you're saying that the whole rebranding and the rebranding of what Pan-Africanism is and the activism and how they've kind of restructured it, and you saying that there needs to be a rebranding if we need to use that method of Africa and the focus being of Africa, right? And I think that what I've come to realize now, for a little while now, is that I think majority of us, and we can say that it's because of the circumstances that we were under, we need to be led as people, not individuals. I know there's individuals that don't need to be led, but I think as a people we need to be led. I think we're crying out for leaders. We clutch on for these people that are leaders, or we give them this grace without saying it, right?
100%.
And I think that, why is it that I don't see, I was going to ask you, right, as someone that I know who's in the field, right, would you say there's many people that you'd say that are real ones that are highlighted as much as the ones that are probably letting us down and embarrassing us at the moment?
No, of course not.
So my thing is, social media is there, right? And don't get me wrong, I understand algorithms, I understand why certain things will get pushed, I understand what would be the likelihood, but until we can break that barrier, that's the only way I can feel that we could move forward, and especially break this kind of chains of fraudulent leaders. Do you know what I mean?
No, I agree with you 100%. I think, and you know, Kel can chime in as well, but like, I think we do need to use our tools, well, not our tools, but the tools that are here, a lot more, especially in terms of promoting the work. And I see that a little bit more. Well, I see that a little bit more. I see that quite a bit. So I suppose it depends on what you're tuned into. But yeah, we definitely need to use it more. But again, how can I put it? Like, those that have those loud voices on social media, that's their intention. They put all their energy into that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know, for there's ones of us that overstand that, and they're putting their energy into it. So those voices are growing in numbers. But again, in terms of that groundwork, you know, human resource is a thing.
Absolutely. And I think that's exactly, you can't. And I think that's the thing. I think the amount of effort and energy it takes just to have a social media presence to keep people stuck and glued and following you and consistent, and then to be expected that same individual to do the works is difficult. But if you were in that kind of field, do you know what I mean? If you were kind of, you know, rubbing shoulders, you were in that environment, you were within that group, I think that would be more easier. I just feel that there needs to be a breakthrough. Do you know what I mean? Because
I agree with what you're saying as well about leadership. I understand the importance of leadership, and leadership always exists in whichever different way it presents itself, especially within organization. But whereas I do agree in terms of promotion or putting ourselves, people putting themselves out there when they're doing the work or whatever. The call as well, leadership is telling you to do the work. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's something that everybody has to be on their personal journey of, you know, I need to want to come off YouTube. What am I doing? When I come off Instagram, what am I doing? Because that's what that leadership should be talking about. So yes, hear the message, but in the message, let's get to work. And the work is, I think sometimes as well, maybe it's taken me quite some time, but I realize how my delivery sounds certain times, yeah. However, everybody is for everybody not everybody is for everybody's ears, and my voice is meant to be how my voice is, if that makes sense. And I say that to say, and I'm not saying that to you directly, I'm just saying that in a general sense. And I say that to say, for me, that's the long and short of it. We have to reflect on ourselves and know what work are we doing. There is no, because I've been doing certain things, I'm doing some next level work than other people. No, like the work, just even the work on yourself is work.
Yeah,
you understand? Because the more work you do on the self, the less hindrance you are to your community.
To other people, exactly.
Do you get what I'm saying? And then you're in that,
with you.
and then that journey of how you get involved. The smallest thing, you know, when you look again in another person's culture, every single body is contributing to the upliftment of their community. Whether it's the person who sends texts, who put letters in letterbox, sends an email, whatever you're doing to contribute is something, and you build on it. Worse is still if you're a parent. That's where my bigger conversation is. If you are a parent, you've got plenty work to do. Do you understand? So we have to as well not see it as when certain people are saying things, it's a case of, you know, there's some kind of hierarchy. No, sir. I'm sweeping floors. I'm going home late. It's not pretty work. It's pretty in the work, in the joy of connecting and building. Do you understand? And relationships and all them type of thing there. But it's work nonetheless. The same piece of Babylon work we're doing, and we're bawling and we're depressed and we're popping pills. Yeah, we'll have a better time doing our work amongst ourselves, is the point I'm making. Do a little sweat for your people then.
I do believe those who are under YouTube channel who are speaking, they definitely need to be funding sincere Black organizations. They have to be doing that, because I do agree with some of the things that Sister Kushi was saying, and that you cannot just be on the YouTube and having that as an excuse to get out of certain things, because where there's speaking about things, there's also funding it too. And definitely, Brother Raven, I think we spoke about this before, you know, anyone who's on the YouTube, man, and they're for Black Betterment, they definitely have to be funding organizations. That has to be a thing. You know, for example, the AdPack, you know, I mean, that's a big, good institution. Whatever it may be, you have to be doing it, because, you know, she's right, man. I do agree with you. You know, I mean, whether you're working for the non-Africans or not, you know, your money should go on the collective and your family. You know what I mean? So, yeah, definitely.
To be fair, most of the people I listen to or I'm aware of, they are part of organizations, so I know where their money's going and stuff they're doing. But yeah, I don't know. You're right. Maybe because there is so many voices, I don't really look at that. Because I know I'm aware of the people I listen to are part of something, and I know where their resources go. But yeah, I suppose in a general sense, that is something to be more mindful about. 100%.
I think as well, like, sorry, I was just going to say, I think as well, one of the things to add to this, especially with like the whole middle class thing, is that I feel that Black people in general are moving higher within social ladders, if that makes sense. So I feel that, especially with new streams of income, right? So whether there's stocks, whether it's investments, whether it's YouTube, whether it's social media. There's new streams of income that has tapped in to help more Black people build a better income, maybe be on the property ladder a bit more than what we was maybe a few years back, etc., etc., etc. Right. So I feel that there is a rise of Black people who are in that bracket. And had there been some sort of institution to ring fence that, yeah, and given in one hand a whole heap of support, accountants, insurance, information, all of that, yeah, and then on the other hand has said, this is what we need from you. Do you know what I mean? I think that would have been great for people who are in a position who have just solely focused on self to get themselves into certain situation in life, and now they're looking around and maybe there's not so many people that look like them on that level. Just having some sort of institution like that would bring you close to a group. That's why I could understand the concept of that when it happened in America at the time that it happened. Again, we see that with the Asians, we see that all the Jewish, we see that they do that. So I do feel that having something, so because right now it's just, once you are Black and you've made it to a certain level, I have seen that they're just an island. They go into certain arenas, decision makings, opportunities, and you are an island. If you are an island, your voice doesn't get heard, your politics don't get heard, the things that you might want to do that might be good for your people don't get heard because you're just a small little individual. But if you could group some of these people together, you know, I do feel that there could be something in that there. So
you know what's a good example, which I've been thinking about lately? I've been seeing pictures of Grime Gala.
Right.
I don't know if people know grime music.
It's like a award show, right?
Come from garage music. Yeah, so it's an award show. So I don't know how to explain garage to who don't know. Grime, who don't know, but grime is a genre of music that's come out of people. Can everyone just say yay if they know what grime is?
Yeah. Grime music.
Yeah, we know.
All right.
Yes, no, I'm just listening to what you're saying, but yeah.
Yeah, I just have to make sure. Anyway, so yeah, I am a garage queen. So I'm gonna mix it up a bit because enough of the people them are old school as well. But the point is that scene, the garage scene, yeah, of that mid-90s, they have evolved, and that's a community in and of itself. And enough of the young that now we call grime, enough of them brought them in, and yeah, enough table they sat at, and people didn't look like them, and they know they had to kick in the doors. Like it weren't. They literally created a scene for themselves, literally. And lo and behold, Babylon comes and makes their money and it gone. But the point is that they still have their little institution. So whatever, I don't know what the involvement of any other non-Africans are in things like Grime Daily, and there's another one, I can't remember what it's called. There's about 2 of these type of channels that they got here, and just lots of independent record labels, DJs, all kinds of stuff, promoters, whatever is attached to it, production, engineering, like it's a whole community out here. And the fact that what they went through as well to be able to do what they do. Like I remember So Solid lost thousands because they kept getting locked off here, there, and everywhere. Enough of them can talk about how they was treated. Police was badding them up left, right, and center, whatever.
Yeah.
So they've been through all of that. But when we're looking at Grime Gala, they made it. They're in Kensington and Chelsea, and you know the white man there with them trumpet, and they're coming in, and the big bottles of champagne and Louis Vuitton and whatever, designer. I'm saying, and some of them, you know, they're coming to some levels of awareness and this and that and that. But I'm saying that, look at all of that. Look at all of that. Imagine they, and I'm not saying some of them ain't sitting down making little, things amongst themselves, because I'm aware that, again, like I said, some of the older heads, the Kanos and Gigs and
my man did Black
Busy
Pound
and there's a crew of them old school ones that I know that they do little thing, but again, on what level and the benefit of who. But I'm just saying that, look at that room, look at how much money is in that room, and what they've been able to achieve. How do they socialize their children? Do they socialize their children? And what politics are they instilling in their children? It's food for thought when we talk about if we was to be able to be in a space, and how if we had certain resources and we've made it to a certain point. I'm just saying, like, that room is an example of everything you've just said. But yet, and they haven't been raised in a particular way for them to be like, oh, I don't know, no different. No, they live in the end. They've been in the bits.
Yeah, but the thing that was missing was that, though, to me, that was what was missing.
What do you mean?
Like, I feel that they were doing it, although they were doing it on their own, I feel that wasn't, like, especially when you start from garage, because see, grime, I'm not in grime, but I'm definitely a part of, like, the whole garage, right? Because that was the beginning. It was around my time as well, of age. Do you know what I mean? So I understand that. And I was living in an area that was kind of like a lot of the pioneers were there. So I understand that. But then going into it, it was, I feel like, I so get you when you talk about garage, because I use that as an example as well, because for me, it was the first thing that was UK. It was very, like, Black British. For me, initially, it wasn't trying to rap in an American accent. It wasn't. It was very authentic. It was very authentic. You could tell that it hadn't been touched by capitalism or mainstream or anything like that, right? You'd go, you're lucky if you get a dub plate, you'd go in, you know what I mean? There was so much the era there was just different, pirate stations. It was just so much different, the era. And I just feel that there was, you couldn't even comprehend the growth of that. And it was just mainly, these weren't adults, mainly they were like, I mean, they were kids, maybe kids when we look at it now, they were kids. And I feel that there was no one there. That thing just kind of that was very grassroots led. It was coming through the pirate station. Then it got requested more. You used to have, like, DJs that were, like, decent DJs who had their heads to the ground, who were there in them fold, that might slip it in a late night. So it kind of grew in that way. Of course, capitalism saw something, mainstream saw something. I remember when Sweet Like Chocolate actually had a video and came on TV, and it was like mad. Do you know what I mean? So all of that thing, I remember the start of that, but there was no, this is what I'm saying, there was no elite to be there, like, okay, like, for example, when someone wins the lottery, the first thing they do is, like, hey, you got to go to a finance investor. You need to understand about taxes. You need to understand about savings. They have to do that, because what was happening in the beginning was that people would just wash away their money. They didn't have a clue because they wasn't financially literate. You've got these people.
No, I totally overs what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that they've grown in it. Enough of them, some of these man, we're the same age in it. So I'm saying, like, they're big man in it, and they've gone through that, and they've been able to go through the rough and tumble, and they've achieved in what they see as achievement. And that's what I'm saying. Some of them are sitting on record labels and property and rare tear. Kano is all types of artists. Do you get me? Man's an actor, got gallery, does orchestra still. Do you get me? Like, next levels. So I'm saying that's where they are today. And I'm saying grime is just an example, because, the lovers rock and soul and rare tear. So we always have these type of things, in our history. But I'm saying that grime is a now example, is what I'm saying. Grime is a now example in terms of information that we have now, and rare tear, and an example that, like you said, they were youths. And I do agree with what you're saying. That's the type of foundations that we do need to create. But I'm saying that let's say they've gone through a process then, let's say, to become an elite. So that's why and Grime is born. So Grime sees them as an elite. Do you get me? That's why they're called. Wiley can be as crazy as he is, but he's a godfather.
He's a godfather, yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And so an elite has already been they've established themselves, sorry, as an elite. And even how they move.
But sister, I will say though, the best example of an elite on the media, I mean, Brother Raven speaking about this before, you have to follow the tactics and mindset of Muhammad Ali and Tupac Shakur. There is not one interview what them two do where Black Betterment is not mentioned as it pertains to funding their community, as it pertains to putting things out there. If we're going to follow our ancestors in political science, military science, we can definitely say those two individuals, especially in the media, are the best examples to follow when it comes to the elite.
I agree with you 1,000%, but that's the point I'm making, that it's for me, it's more than just having the resource. And even if we see that they've gone through struggle and they've learned things and they've acquired things and they know how to be in particular situations, the Tupac is a baby of Black Panther. Afeni Shakur is his mother. His stepfather is
To the Shakur family.
Right. Muhammad Ali became Muhammad Ali because of Nation of Islam. So there's a level of teaching, back to what we were saying earlier, that you cannot escape from. And that's what reinforced them. You get what I'm saying? So
yeah, that's what I believe. That's why I say that the leaders need to be, we need to, and listen, when I say leaders, I hate saying it, but it's because I come to the resolution that as us as a people, as it stands now, they need a leader, clearly. Yeah. So although we know that they have to look for self, they have to look inside self. That's the only way to profit and move forward, to actually do the work inside. They need to see a leader literally telling them that and literally dummy guiding them and showing them how to do it. That's the day and age we live in. Yeah. To re-educate and get out everything that they've had in. That is literally what you have to do to us as a people. Right. So when you and Cal were saying what you're saying now, and you're talking how you're saying, and sis, you're talking about the history, this is why I'm saying you need to see that. You need to, even if you never saw the growth, you need to be able to research back that this person's been in do you understand? Because
no, I can't agree, because you're right, leadership,
it has to be, because if not,
leadership has been demonized as well. So yeah, it's part of it. So you're correct.
It has to be. I am telling you, that is what I've come to. Like the one that's going to be the leader is going to be that one, because if not, we're going to constantly be getting these lots. Do you know what I mean? 1 second you're pro-black, next second you're on a show like that, letting a woman talk like that.
But I think we have to recognize that there's lots of, don't look for one. There's leadership is never going to be.
I've said that. Yeah.
In one,
you can't have one. Yeah. You can't have a burden on one because it's an individual, and it's not even that individual. This is what I'm saying. Because to me, like I've always said, it's not about having an individual. That's not what the aim is.
Like, what I mean is that leadership is burdensome just by its definition. But I mean that there's lots of leadership.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying?
No one could be all-knowing on one opinion.
I've always said to Brother Raven, from a political science analysis, that the leader should be the code of conduct. Because if we focus all the energy on the code of conduct, it will remove the burden of the 1 or 4 leaders. So, for example, if you make the object of the attention the main goal, then it will relieve pressure of those who are uplifting it. If it's the other way around, it's a problem, which is why a lot of us, when we do something wrong, some of our leaders, they did things and then everyone goes back to sleep. But we definitely need to rebrand it that the code of conduct is the leader, but all we're doing is uplifting it, but focusing more attention on the leader. On the code of conduct, it can burden that, but we can't handle that burden. It's too much for us. It's a problem. But the code of conduct can be burdened, and we need to burden the code of conduct more than our humanic mind.
Thank you, family. I will say this. Family, this is the 99th show. Next week is the 100th. So I have no idea what it will be about. It will be good to have all the people who spoke to come back on, and maybe it might just be just to pick people's thoughts and how how it's progressed. Because this show is the people's show. It is for people to come in and contribute and back and forth and find solutions. So it's about a community show. So if you guys could come back next week for that show, that would be great. And anyone else who you speak to who's been on there, invite them as well. But if there's any particular topic you would like to cover, let me know. If not, it will just be a 100 show celebration, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. But we're going to leave it there. But I'll say this. I have to thank everyone for talking. Like I said, it's you guys who make the show what it is. And it takes a lot to jump on the panel and give your opinion. And you've been doing it very well throughout the 100 shows. So thank you very much, family. Thank you very much. So would you like to say your last thing before we end this broadcast?
I'll just say big up yourself, Raven. Big up the panel. It's been lovely. And I do like the reasoning here. I'm trying to build my own little YouTube situation. But yeah, I'm not so this helps me, get in the game and get comfortable with it. So and I like that I've been able to do it here in this constructive manner with constructive conversation, because some of these YouTube streets, boy, Lord have mercy. It's a hot mess. Kale, I don't know how you do it. I want to be like you when I grow up. I tell you and Shakara, I'm trying every day. I try. So that's why I don't go on there, because I don't have no behavior.
When you get your YouTube channel, I'm going to support you. But sometimes you have to go into the battlefield. You have to test yourself.
Everybody's work's different, Kel. That's your work. It's not mine, Rasta. I don't know how you lot do it. Kushti as well, if you're still out on them YouTube streets, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you
ain't in them ones, man. I am not in them ones.
That's too much for me. It's too much. But no, so I give thanks for this space. I give thanks for the space that I've been able to contribute in the way that I have been. I give thanks for the panel as well. So yeah.
To you, Brother Raven, the fact that you've allowed the African man and female to work side by side, brother, I have to commend you for that, brother. Because there's a lot of YouTube channels and they want to create gender wars, but you, brother, have created a platform where us African descendant males and females can hold each other's hands and come with solutions. So I commend you for that, brother. Ashe. Yeah. And the next show, God willing, brother, we're gonna support you. Big up you, brother. Big up.
Yeah, good work. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to your 100th show. I'll definitely be there to support as usual. And to the next 100. So keep up, bro.
Family, have a good one. Until next week, the 100th show, Black Betterment. See you guys then. Have a good one.
All right, then. Have a good night. Bye.
All right.